What's going on YouTube? Team G Sale back with another video. Thanks for tuning in today, everyone. We're going to do something completely different. For quite a while now, I've been doing, I should say, pickup videos. But here where I am in Manitoba, we just went to complete lockdown. So thrift stores, pawn shops, flea markets, anywhere I would have normally gone to get games is over. And because of that, I'm kind of cool with that, the way that the financial situation, we're down to a single income family. We're in my home now, so that's probably a good thing. It's, you know, less money I need to blow on things, and I already have a lot of stuff, so I'm really going to focus on doing reviews of video games and board games, and we're going to start with a whole new series. But before we get started, if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button. I'm getting almost halfway to 400 subscribers, 326, I think, when I last checked. And hit that like button to show some support. And I really want to hear some comments today from you guys if you have a few minutes. Do you like these kind of videos that I'm going to be doing? What are your thoughts on them? Do any of these games, ring a bell with you? Did you play them? And just generally speaking, do you like this type of series that I'm doing? Is it worth pursuing? For some of you who have followed my channel, you know that I have a big board game collection. I have been collecting board games actively for over 6 years now, and I've got almost, I think, about 620, 630, something around there. And there's an entire room in my basement. I'll show some video right here of floor to ceiling board games, and it's gotten kind of out of hand to the point where I've really slowed down on my board game collecting. And what I decided to do, I thought about doing like a game room tour, but there's just too many games. So what I thought I would do is do a series of videos where I focus on a specific genre of games. And I thought, what better way than to start with one of the genres, I should say, that I do have a lot of childhood memories of, and these are TV show board games, and specifically cartoon TV show board games. So for the next couple videos I'm going to be doing, I don't want to do too many in one because it just makes the video insanely long, and I want these videos to be kind of 10 to 15 minutes tops, but I'm going to be reviewing TV show cartoon board games, mainly from the 80s and 90s, but there are some that obviously are a little older than that. The video is going to be a couple parts. I want to give a little history, or brief history, I should say, of the franchise. When did it start? When did the board game come out? I want to show some gameplay, or show at least what the board and contents look like, and give you guys an idea of that. I also want to talk about the value of this board game. Is it one that's going up? Is it one that's kind of flat? And then finally, is it worth picking up? Is it a game that you and your kids or you and your family could play, or is it really not worth it? So that's kind of how this series is going to work. And as usual, let's just jump right into the video. So the first game today is one that I have a bit of experience with. Growing up, I had a neighbor who was a girl, and I would go to her house frequently to play, and she had a huge collection of My Little Ponies. And I would often play My Little Pony with her. I didn't actually own any of my own, but hey, I'm not gonna lie, I thought they were kind of cool. I still had my He-Man and G.I. Joes and stuff. But that being said, the first board game on the list today is the My Little Pony A Merry-Go-Round Adventure. And it's by Milton Bradley, who makes a lot of these games, as you're gonna see. So here's the board game. It's pretty simple, pretty colorful actually. It's got very few pieces, to be honest with you. There's this merry-go-round that sort of spins around here. You roll the dice, and essentially you move your pony through the amusement park. What you're trying to do is get yourself over to the Ferris wheel here, because when you're on here, you can pick up tokens, and you need, I believe it's 5 to exit the park. The tokens are just these little rings here, and you can get these free rides to let yourself keep going along. But essentially, the game just kind of takes a while. You can go around like 2 or 3 times without actually getting a token, and then you have to just keep going and going and going, just hoping you get a lucky roll. In addition, the other player gets a chance to steal your free rides from you, which means you can't
go multiple times on that Ferris wheel. Again, I played this with my 5-year-old, and he actually found it somewhat entertaining, but by about the 6th or 7th time, I was just done with this game overall, so that's kind of what it looks like there.
Now, I want to make it clear, this is not a game I would recommend. It is kind of tedious, very slow. I played it with my 5-year-old who, after a few minutes, didn't really want to play another round after we had gone through because there's just one fatal flaw about this game. It takes too long. That's the hard part. The game goes on forever and ever. So, I wouldn't recommend this game at all. The next game is one that is very, very, very odd. And odd because I never heard of this franchise. So here is Disney's Fluffy Dogs.
On the next Disney Sunday movie, it's a special Disney treat.
Fluffies dead ahead! Look out!
Let's get out of here!
Fluffy Dogs, brave adventurers from another world who sometimes act like people.
You mean you can just open doors and walk right into other worlds?
They won't escape this time.
Come on, Columbus, we have to help them.
The door!
Do something, Stanley!
It's out of this world fun and adventure with Disney's Fluffy Dogs.
I got this game for $1.25 at a thrift store, and it looked cool. It's 80s, that's for sure. And otherwise, there's not a lot to say about this game. It was a very short-lived franchise that Disney released in 1986, I believe, as a made-for-TV movie that was supposed to spawn a show. But it was so bad that the series was canceled after the initial run of it.
Alright, so here's the Fluffy Dog game. Kind of an interesting box, really cool cover art actually. Disney's always really good at that. This one's Parker Brothers instead of Milton Bradley. So essentially it's a memory game, and all you're doing is going around and pulling out these fluffy dogs to see what color's underneath. It's one of those games that didn't actually have a game board and basically just used the box as a game board. So like I said, you go around and you pull out different fluffy dogs to look at the bottom color, and then if you pull out the right color, you can match it to your train right here on the side. You keep on going until the board is done, and the person with the most fluffy dogs wins. The only thing different about this in regular memories, you could put it back in any slot, which can be kind of confusing to the person who's playing it. It gets tedious really, really quickly, although, I mean, if you are a fan of memory games, it's a kind of a different spin on it. Not a terrible game. My 5-year-old played it pretty well, but there's a lot better ones.
My thoughts on this game are pretty straightforward, guys. It's not worth the time or money. It's also not an easy game to find, but I can't find any values on it. eBay is pretty bare for any listings or sold listings. That being said, not worth my time to pick it up, unless you just want a really cheesy memory game. Next up, guys, a franchise that I don't have a ton of familiarity with, but I do remember it from when I was a kid, and that is Strawberry Shortcake, and this one's called In Big Apple City.
Boys and girls, moms and dads, brothers and sisters, cats and dogs, welcome to the world of Strawberry Shortcake.
Now, Strawberry Shortcake is, again, a franchise I don't have a lot of familiarity with, but take a look at some gameplay here and I'll try to go through as quickly as I can.
Alright, so here's Strawberry Shortcake. Really cool box art again. So the game is really, really simple, and you can pick it up pretty darn quickly. My son and I played it for a little while, and one of the rare ones that he actually wanted to play again, so a good sign there. Very colorful board. It looks like Candyland at first, but it's a little bit different. Essentially, you take these pawns. Now, it would have been cool if they actually had pawns that had something else other than these generic ones, but you use a spinner and go around the board. The interesting thing about this game is every now and then, you'll go to one of these numbered sections where the purple pie man is. And, sorry, here's the spinner here. He just goes by colors. But like I said, every now and then you go to one of these sections that is where the Purple Pie Man is. And this is where the other player gets to use these, this chip with this kind of like 3-card Monty, essentially, where you're spinning it around and then you have to pick the right one. If you don't get the right one, you're stuck there. If you get the right one, you get to go again. Now, unfortunately, my copy of the game didn't have the instructions, so I sort of had to guess how to play it. Hopefully, we were playing it right. Like I said, either way, my son really enjoyed this one. We played it for probably more than half an hour, and it's one I would probably recommend picking up if you have young kids. So there's Strawberry Shortcake.
I think this game might be worth picking up. My son and I had kind of fun playing it, especially the idea of with the purple pie man and switching around the pies. The problem I have with this game is I don't have the instructions, so I'm really not sure if I'm playing it right. But I think I am, and that being said, probably worth it in that respect. The value of this game fluctuates. There are a few sold copies anywhere from $15 to $18 on eBay. Not an expensive game, but if you do happen to find one, I think if you have a young child, definitely worth your time to pick up. Next up is a franchise that if you're Canadian, you will definitely know this, especially if you grew up in the 90s, and this is Reboot, the Mainframe board game.
I come from the net, through systems, peoples, and cities, to this place, Mainframe. My format, Guardian, to mend and defend. To defend my newfound friends, their hopes and dreams. To defend them from their enemies.
I found this board game at a Value Village for $4 many years ago. And I have a lot of familiarity. I did watch a lot of Reboot when I was younger. It was a pretty cool show, to be honest with you. It ran between 1996 and 2000 out of a studio based in Vancouver, Canada. Essentially following the story of Bob, Enzo, and Dot and their adventures against the criminal Megabyte and Hexadecimal. This game took place in a digital world, essentially inside of a computer, inside of some type of programming, where games would appear and they'd have to go in and sort of battle it out in these games in order for the city to survive. Kind of an interesting game.
So here's the Mainframe game. Canada Games did a pretty good job on the board itself. It's colorful and looks kind of cool, and there's lots of paths and things going on. Essentially, you play as one of the 4 good guy characters, and it'd be nice if they had something a little more, tactile instead of just these little, whatever, pog-like things. And then there's also 4 enemies that are on the board as well. This board uses a spinner, which is actually really cool because when you spin your guy, it also spins the bad guy. So when you are done moving your character, the bad guy, the person you're playing against, the second player, can move the bad guys to try to stop you, and you can do the same to them. You move around the board, and essentially you want to get these command chips here, and you get these by going into games and basically spinning to see if you win or lose. It takes a long time. You can also get these command cards that'll help you out with things or win games automatically for you. Unfortunately, the game does kind of take a while to play, and I didn't find it too fun overall.
My final thoughts on this game are pretty simple, guys. It is not worth the money or the time to pick it up. I can't even find an eBay listing, so sold or listing. So again, probably not going to find it unless you want to go to a thrift store and pick it up. It's overly complicated and it doesn't need to be. And that being said, it was a complete bust. My son and I didn't even finish the game, and we kind of forgot we were even doing certain things in it. I wouldn't recommend this one at all, despite the fact that the franchise is actually pretty cool. Next up on the list is one of my childhood favorites. Growing up, I used to watch the show and read the books, and this is the Berenstain Bears Spooky Old Tree game.
Somewhere deep in bear country lives the Berenstain Bear family. They're kind of furry around the torso. They're a lot like people, only more so. Their fact is that they're just like you and me. The only difference is they live in a tree. The Berenstain Bears.
To this day, my son and I still read the Berenstain Bears books. They are very close to my heart. There's some amazing stories in there, and a board game adaptation seemed pretty reasonable at the time.
So here's the board game itself. I love the art. It's got that sort of creepy Berenstain Bears Halloween feel to it. The board's also kind of cool too, very simple actually. You pick one of your Berenstain Bears characters. There's basically 2 brother-looking characters and 2 sister-looking characters. Each one of them has a special item. The items really don't make much difference. You use the spinner here to basically go around the board. Now, if you roll a 2, one of the color 2s, you can essentially flip one of these areas to make it different. They do stick a little bit, unfortunately, kind of tight. Might just be my copy, I don't know. what you want to do essentially is flip them to the bad thing to slow down the other player, and then flip them to the accessible one so that your character can go through. So right here, here's the family going through, so you can use the shortcut. Or it's a bad one that slows the other guy down. Essentially, you just go around the board, spin, move some spaces. If you land on one of these items here, you can jump ahead to the next one, which is for you. Very simple board game. My son really liked it, and we played it multiple times. And again, just absolutely love this box art. It's great if you're a huge Berenstain Bears fan.
My final thoughts on this game are pretty straightforward. It's really not a great game. It's not terrible. I think it's definitely better than a couple of the other ones. But at the sort of final recommendations of it, it's too simple and it ends really, really quickly. But for really young children, 4 or 5, it isn't a bad idea if you do happen to stumble across one to pick one up. Values are kind of all over the place on this one too. General sold listings are around $20, which seems reasonable. So if you do happen to pick one up and you have younger children, I'd recommend it for that. But again, the game is quite simple and ends very, very fast. Although, again, younger kids would probably find that pretty fun overall. Older kids, not so much. The final game for today, guys, is another franchise that I really enjoyed, and it's still pretty popular, and that is Disney's Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. This is a Milton Bradley game, and my son and I tried this one out.
So again, I love the art. Milton Bradley had some amazing box art for their games. Again, like most of the games today, the board is rather simple. What you're going to do is pick one of the Rescue Rangers, and thankfully they actually have stands, unlike just, you know, flat pog-like things like the other games. You roll your dice and you essentially move around the board. You can move in different directions, especially if you hit that wild card spot. And all you're really trying to do is get these parts for the machine that you're going to build, and it gives you a little puzzle thing here to show you how the machine's going. Once the machine's built, essentially you win. You have these little guys here, which basically give you a free turn, and you can replenish them throughout the game by landing on squares that give you extra ones. Otherwise, the game is really simple. There's not a lot to it. Not the worst game I've played, but Milton Bradley games tend to be very, very simple overall.
My final thoughts on this game, guys, is really not a good one either. It's kind of the message today. There were a couple in there. Strawberry Shortcake's okay, and Berenstain Bears is okay, but this one is just kind of not. My son got quite bored of it playing it. He wanted to try another game. There is a little bit of a bias here. My son really likes sort of like visual games with lots of cool pieces, and this game really didn't have that. These Milton Bradley games normally didn't have that, and that's okay. This game does fluctuate in value as well. You can get it for about $20 to $25 on eBay, or just maybe check your local thrift stores and maybe you'll find one. Again, overall, wouldn't really recommend it. Ranking these games this week, I would say Strawberry Shortcake for kids is your best bet. Next would probably be the Berenstain Bears game, followed by I'd say the My Little Pony games probably next. The Chip 'n Dale one maybe would be 4th. The Fluffy Dogs would be 5th, and dead last place would be the Reboot Mainframe board game. This is part 1, guys, and I hope to come back to the part 2 real soon. There is a lot of TV show cartoon board games, and I got a lot more to go through for you guys to see. Thanks for tuning in today, and really, I'd appreciate to hear some comments about what you think about this series, or just if any of these board games sounded cool, or you had them as kids, or you remembered them, or if you have recommendations of board games that I haven't done yet. I'd love to hear some feedback just to know if this series is really worth going forward with, or if it's something that I should maybe put on the back burner and just go back to doing collection or pickup videos. So again, if you haven't already subscribed, guys, hit the subscribe button, smash the like button for some support, and really hope to keep doing these, and we'll listen to the feedback and talk to you guys soon. Have an awesome week and stay safe out there. Bye now.